once we realize that the natural response of a young child when they feel scared or anxious or worried or stressed, when they feel those things, is to look to their parents for protection, for soothing, for regulation, for reassurance. Once we realize that that's the natural response, it's also easy to realize that if a child has an anxiety disorder, meaning they have a problem where the heart of the problem is like chronically feeling anxious, what's going to happen? They're going to chronically look to their parents to step in and provide them with those protective and regulatory functions. And so that's what we see happening in families of anxious children. The child gets anxious, they look to their parents for help. If you have separation anxiety, you stay near your parent where you feel safe. If you have generalized anxiety, you ask your parents sometimes 1 million questions a day with all your worries and asking for that reassurance. If you have social anxiety, you may look to your parent to speak in place of you and mediate those social interactions on your behalf. But the reason that actually ends up being problematic, it's natural, but in the context of an anxiety disorder, it becomes problematic. And the reason for that is that children actually I'm not talking now about newborn infants anymore, but children, as they develop, they do have the ability to cope with anxiety. When we are always coping for them, when we're always providing that reassurance or speaking in place of them, etc., one thing that's happening is that they're not practicing that ability of their own, right? They're becoming entirely dependent on their parent, and they're learning that they can't handle anxiety on their own, which actually leads them to feel more anxious over time rather than less anxious. And so that's why what we see is that as parents accommodate more, even though they're working so hard to help their child not be anxious, what actually happens is the child just gets more and more anxious over time rather than the opposite.
Yeah, this is so fascinating. And one of the points you make in the book that was just such a light bulb moment is that it's not our job to make our kids' lives as comfortable as possible. And also that everyday anxiety is not as dangerous as we might believe. And you say teaching your child not to fear anxiety and to take it in stride is one of the biggest gifts you can give your anxious child. That's so powerful, I think.